Well, hello, this is Chris Parker with the Business Simplicity podcast, and I have had a conversation with Ahmed Mohsen, Senior Product Manager with Dstny Engage. And we talked about 8 specific lessons or points where SaaS, software as a service leaders can focus on and learn. And this is from his years of experience, and we shared a lot of stories. But hey, Ahmed, why would this be really valuable for people to listen to it?
Thank you, Chris. I guess it's going to be valuable for early stage founders because it's going to save them time repeating the mistakes over and over and increase their likelihood of having successful SaaS products.
The Business Simplicity Podcast, where we learn about strategies and tactics to succeed through simplicity, with your host, Chris Parker.
Welcome back. This is Chris Parker with the Business Simplicity Podcast, and I'm having a conversation with Ahmed Mohsen, and he's actually in Giza, I think, near Cairo, in Egypt. And we have recently worked together in Dstny Engage, and he's a senior product manager there, and I think he's been there for going on 4 years off the top of my head. And I was having a conversation recently, and he shared maybe something that was not supposed to be widely known, but he was working on a blog about lessons that he has learned in the SaaS industry, in the software as a service industry. And if someone is putting in the time and effort and care to curate their thoughts and share them with people, particularly if it's somebody who I respect, like I do, Ahmed, the invitation to join the podcast is inevitable. and thank you, Ahmed, for joining. We have a number of lessons or tips and pointers that we're going to get into later in the conversation. But before that, you have an interesting background, meaning you've not always been in SaaS. You've been in the agency business and then decided to make that jump. And so maybe my first question is in 2 parts. How would you describe the term SaaS for people who really don't have a clue what we're talking about? And why did you step into this space? So maybe start with, what is SaaS? And I know that's one of the points on your blog, and people can find that at the letter Q, the number 4.ae, and one of the posts there is, what is SaaS? So that's what really triggered me to start. Like, let's just define that term for people, and then let's talk a little bit about you and then get into the tips. How about that? So Ahmed, what is SaaS?
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to your show. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Your question, what's SaaS? So SaaS, I would describe SaaS like an opportunity for technology and innovators to charge money and make money for a long time with a recurring revenue model. So SaaS is a software as a service. It's obviously software as a service, but it's an opportunity to go beyond local markets, to be available worldwide, to solve problems for customers on the other end of the world. It's a gold mine.
And some examples of me, because software as a service, it can have a recurring licensing revenue, but it also usually includes the hosting, the support. And so if people use Gmail or Office 365, that is just very obvious types of SaaS, meaning you don't have to install a server for your email anymore. Just Google or Microsoft takes care of that. Now, what, 3.5, 4 years ago, you left. You had your own company in the sort of digital agency company, and you decided to go all in product management and SaaS. And can you help us understand why you did that, and as a way of sort of introducing yourself? You made a big career jump. What was the driver behind that?
Well, the driver behind this was the service business is pretty hard. It's about charging money for time of use. You in the I used to be an animator and a producer, so customers personally reach out to me because they like my artwork, they like the way I produce TV commercials. So um, it was pretty hard because I have that notion: how can I make money while I'm asleep? And I had some adventures like getting into affiliate marketing, trying out many stuff, and I had quite success there. But I wanted to have my own venture that um, allows me to reach out to customers worldwide and charge money on a recurring basis. So throughout my agency, I've been working with a lot of startups, and many of them was SaaS companies. And I was helping them not only crafting video commercials, but I was helping them into deciding what are the best segments, like who's the ideal customer profile look like, and so on and so forth, and then do my work. So I found myself like falling in love with the SaaS model, and I decided to start my own product. So I started a product back then. It was called Closer, and I had another product made. I made it was viral insights to like reverse engineering viral content on the internet. So marketing directors and marketing managers can plan for producing viral content. And then when I got, it was a struggling kind of because there was no mentors. The team was small. And when I got the offer from Dstny Engage, I couldn't resist. The leadership there is great. The team is amazing. Tons of bright minds. So I decided to shut down my agency, shut down my SaaS products, and join them. And I've been there like 4 years so far. I don't know. I stopped counting because I'm enjoying it.
And I've had the privilege to work with you for the last probably year and a half of that, and see you a number of times in Egypt, and also when you've been over here in Europe as well. And we've been learning so much from each other. Maybe can you give us a very brief, because this is not going to be about Dstny Engage, but can you just give a very brief snapshot on what is Dstny Engage, what is the ICP, what is the proposition, and just do that in as tight a way as you can. I'm curious to see how you describe it now.
All right. So Dstny Engage is a digital communication platform. It's an omni-channel where you can get all channels into one interface, so your team can have a good relationship with their customers, even if you're using it for support or sales use cases. And the ICP is small and medium businesses. However, we have some mid-market customers, and we have some enterprise, but it's designed for helping small businesses to never miss an opportunity, whether it's retaining a customer or selling to a potential customer.
And if people are interested in that, we'll put that in the show notes as well, with the link to Dstny Engage. That's DSTNY Engage in English .com. And now I'm really curious to unpack this, and I hope there's another blog post or a few coming out on q4.ae about this kind of stuff. But one of the points that you were sharing with me before is that founders or say SaaS people can focus much more on the idea they have as opposed to the problem it solves. Can you what do you mean by that? Can you unpack that for us a bit?
Yeah, it's kind of triggering to me. Actually, when a friend of mine that comes to me, "Hey Ahmed, I have a brilliant idea." From this second, I stop listening. So it's not about ideas; it's about solving real problems. So if you want to be successful, you want to fall in love with the problem space, not the solution space.
Well, it's that's so true and so hard.
Yeah.
It's so true and so hard because it's sort of counterintuitive. I think humans just aren't designed for that. Meaning, we come up with some inspirational, intuitively inspirational thing, and then we want to share that. And how much work has been wasted by me, a lot, in building, crafting something based on an idea without really having any idea what problem it would actually solve. So how could you avoid that? Meaning, how have you overcome that in your life?
Because I keep doing such mistakes because we are human at the end. So it's all about going back to the problem and validating the problem space. And the only way you can do it in an early stage is by talking to as much as customer as possible, or as much of the audience, because we are not yet your customers. For example, when a friend of mine, he has an e-commerce, a couple of weeks ago, he was telling me he has a problem tracking all the purchases from the vendors before selling them and putting them on the e-commerce system. So I kept asking him question, and I drag the paper and start to do sketch out. So these are the list of the problems. What are the most important problems? What's the value does it bring? And how does it cost you money or time? And from there, like, would you mind doing like an Excel sheet to properly help you out? So I did an Excel sheet with a Google form and so on and so forth. And turns out that in 30 minutes, wow, that's a good solution, he said. I want to connect this with my website. So this is like an aha moment to me. This is like I captured the problem, I listened to him, I did the prioritization, and then we did like a little equation on an Excel. And the moment he wanted to use it in an actual world situation, this was like, boom, well, this is an opportunity, but I need to like, does it have a large magnitude? So asking the right question afterwards is pretty important as well.
Well, that one maybe is a little bit too easy, maybe because the problem came to you and that was the invitation to solve it. And I'm wondering, like a number of years ago, I was with my simple business design framework. I was thinking, hey, maybe this is something that could be like an educational portal, because I'm really, like you said, hey, make money while you sleep, or another way of looking at it is allowing people to help themselves and solve their problems, without an attachment to my own time. And I built out the whole, learning management system, and spent just a lot of time doing the engineering work, and it just didn't make any sense, because I was building it in my own mind, and I was just so interested and passionate about it. And in hindsight, that was just absolutely the absolute. I can't say it's the worst thing I could have done, because I learned a lot from it. There was learning, but I'm sure I could learn that a different way. And one of the outcomes was, what I realized is actually I could help coach, facilitate people in, say, group settings, and your team at Dstny Engage has used that that method itself. So maybe by the end we can talk a little bit about how you guys use that simple business design framework. But this is where, coming into the second point, which we kind of called code over customer, meaning people can find themselves lost in engineering and coding without talking to the customer. And
Absolutely.
How can you avoid that? Like why is that a problem? And how can you avoid that?
This is the thing, because we are human at the end of the day. So I came from from a creative background. So I like spending my time on Figma, designing experiences. If you are a founder that loves coding, if you find yourself doing what you love to do, that seems to be wrong in that case, because you are avoiding making the hard decision and making the things that it doesn't help to scale, but it helps to move on. So I would tell if you're not spending enough time with customers, you're doing it wrong. So regardless what you're doing, design, coding, whatever. So if you don't have spending much time as possible as in the early stage, in first 1 to 2 years with customers, then you're doing it wrong. I've been there. Like I had a problem with my agency. I was converting leads, doing pay-per-click on the internet, but the conversion rate was not too high, like the closing rate of the deals. And I did a prototype that converted every lead in the form into like a two-directional phone call. And it solved my problem. Like the closing rate was like 4x. At this moment, I said, wow, it's a great idea. Let's build it into a SaaS product. So I spent 2 years talking to no one, building that product. And then when I tried to sell it to the agencies like me, I found out that this problem was burning problem to me, but it's not a burning problem to them. It's nice to have. It's like it's a vitamin, and many of them don't even spend much money on pay-per-click. But on the other hand, real estate was crazy about the idea. They wanted to implement it, but the way I built it is not helping the real estate companies. So this is kind of a mistake, like spending thousands of dollars, years of your time, and at the end, boom, your idea, it's great for some people, it's not for the others. And you have to like spend another 6 months to do like pivoting and so on and so forth. So the rule of thumb there is if you don't spend enough time with the customer, listening to the customer, even you didn't build the product yet, then you're approaching this in the wrong way.
It's not only startups, meaning this is a trap that any size of organization can get at, because it's really, I work a lot of times with large multinational enterprise companies, and this is why I got so passionate about customer experience design strategy. Is there were so many projects, investments, products that were being made based on what I would call hobbyism, meaning someone in the company thought it was a good idea, so let's spend a couple million on it, but without actually talking to someone to see if they ever cared. And then of course doing that in a very waterfall way. So then like you said, it takes 2 years to build. You bring it out to market and people look at you like you're kind of an idiot, and it's not, I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about everybody who does that. So it's so what we're talking about is validation, and the third point on the list is, we called it revenue over validation. And this was interesting. Can you tell that story? Because you felt that maybe some earlier stage SaaS companies might be going to charge instead of to learn. So like what's behind that? Like, isn't it a good thing to charge for your product, or where are you going with that lesson?
Yeah, so I believe like charging money, because if you're a SaaS founder or at early stage, you want to expose your product as much as possible to the customers. And after learning from there, optimizing your product, people are still afraid that charging enough money from the customers. They having a fear of rejection, so they keep like the prices pretty low. And there's a study out there like saying that 66 SaaS products worldwide are underpriced. So being afraid of charging money or charging so little money from the customer is like it's a psychological barrier, and you should ask for the money from the first place, and by doing so, you're validating that you're truly solving a problem that worth solving. And my recent way of doing this is I'm doing it as a service first. So if I'm rebuilding my software today, I would go to specific segments, but qualify them by asking about the problem space, and then offering them that I will work for them as a consultant or as an agency. I will do my best to solve this problem, maybe by doing some integration, building some Excel files, doing a training, building processes, and doing training for the people. So at the end of the day, if you manage to solve that problem, even if you don't have the product yet, even if you are using competitors' products, so you need to validate your assumptions. You need to validate the problem space. You need to validate that the people are willing to pay enough money for it. And if you manage to do it like even before building the product as a consultant or any kind of like a service like or a prototype maybe. So doing it as a service business is kind of like a workaround if you don't have the product. And from there, you keep doing this for 10 customers to validate getting paid from them, and then you should go and build your product. And when it comes about the speaking about the money, the first thing when people think of pricing is kind of like they keep making it complicated. Like, Ryan, if I'm gonna ask you today, I have a software that can help sales team work with me. How would you advise me to build a pricing model for that product? I only have like five customers at the early stage. What do you think? How we should approach the pricing model at the early stage?
Well, what I've seen is of course people start going into these like silver, gold, platinum type stuff, and then they have the enterprise and they start going into these different modules and add-ons and things like this. And my guess is that the wisdom would say is just to have probably one simple price. But I don't know, where would you start?
Absolutely. So I would start at this point definitely by learning from competitors, but not copying them. So I would offer like one flat price. But the thing is, the only exercise I would do is connected to the value. So, for example, and by the value I mean, I will bring an example first to explain that what it does mean a value. So on HubSpot, their platform, if you are going to get the marketing automation tool, you will find that it's priced by the number of contacts. On the other hand, if you're going to purchase the CRM, it will be calculated as number of seats, because they are bringing two different values. The marketing automation, for example, is helping you to connect with customers or the audience. So it seems that the value there is about the relationship between the business and the audience. Then I will price based on this, all right? And when it comes to the CRM, it's all about boosting the productivity of the sales team. That means that the pricing per the seat is the thing that makes sense in this case. So I would invest time understanding which value I'm gonna price based on, and then I'm gonna offer like one pricing point. And if you have maybe more seats, you just add more seats. If you have more connections, you add more connections, and so on and so forth. So capturing the value and pointing out to the value, and this is how the audience will feel like it's a fair price, because they grow as they are able to grow as their needs go, and they're paying money for it. But if the needs is going down, then they don't have to be charged for a fancy number. So having a clear and transparent pricing is the key.
And I guess it's all fair as well. Like you mentioned HubSpot. I'm a big fan of HubSpot. The free tier is already pretty valuable in what you can do with it. Meaning for a basic SME that doesn't want automation and it just makes sense. Meaning if you want a basic sort of email capture with a basic CRM with some deal stages and just to get started, and then HubSpot has a ton of content out there that helps people level up. And so they're actually basically helping people succeed in their business so they can mature to the point where they would want that marketing automation, and then, would be making enough revenue in their business to actually afford it as well. And for me, it makes just a lot of sense. I think I'm a big fan of HubSpot. The next one is scaling over simplicity. And I think I sort of use the word scaling to capture a lot of stuff, meaning just growing, stacking, layering on top, and I guess missing the essence of simplicity. But for you, like what is it with SaaS companies that is a mistake when they get their eye off the ball of simplicity? Like what did you mean by that when you express that as one of the lessons, and how would you avoid that?
Well, the thing is, we are all smart people, and sometimes we tend to complicate things. But the thing is, the reason that people moved on from traditional software into SaaS products is the simplicity. So complicating things is not in your favor. Like complicating the pricing is not in your favor. Complicating the offering, like having too much products and having to explain to the customer, like, and the only way of this, like, to explain it to your mom. If you manage to understand what you're trying to sell and what type of problem you got, and the way why you price this way, look like this. If you pass the mom's test, then you're good to go. So building and complexity is not only about the offering; it's also about the way the organization is structured or the way you bring customers in. So, for example, if you're at early stage and you're shooting in the dark, sometimes you're doing maybe pay-per-click, or sometimes you're doing some little content and blog posts on the website. Sometimes you're on LinkedIn. It's not helping because you're trying to penetrate a specific segment in the market, and that segment, it's a sweet spot. Maybe it needs a channel partner program. Maybe it needs an outbound activity. Maybe it needs a content marketing and labor. So the balance between the audience you're trying to reach and the methods you're using is pretty important. And there's no shame of using all of these methods, but it's all about doing it in experimental format. Like you're after the mid market. Should I use the inbound? Should I do like pay-per-click? Should I hire an AE, account executive, or an SDR to help me out penetrate the segment? So it's all about running an experiment at early stage. It's not only about validating the problem and the solution, it's also about validating the channels that you're going to use to reach out to your audience and grow from there. And one of the masters I keep following is Dan Montel. He had this like scalable sales motion framework to take off to test out each channel against each segment. And from there, you might find the product, the channel fit.
Who was that person you mentioned?
Dan Martell.
Dan Martell.
Yeah, he's the founder of Pitfalls and currently an investor and business coach.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I knew the name. You follow some amazing people. You're always bringing in a new framework in every time I talk to you. It's impressive. Just from learning and curiosity, I think you have to continue learning and be curious, because growth hacking, growth marketing. I just had David Arnault from Growth Tribe on for an episode, and I think he'll be published maybe the episode after this one's published. And we talked just a little bit about how growth marketing hacking has evolved, and just from going into forcing people through a funnel for the hard sell. It's really nuanced right now. Meaning it's very much down to deeply knowing your customer, having the right proposition at the right time. So basically, if you have a crap product, you can't hack your way into sales. because the customers are much more sophisticated. They're not going to allow themselves to just get blindly brought into a funnel and convert. It's just not going to happen anymore. On simplicity, passion of mine, as you know, I think complexity will take care of itself. And so if complexity just creates itself, that's just the nature of things. As the business grows and you go, when you start, you're just a handful of generalists, you're in one room, you can organize a lot. But then once you start specializing, you have marketing, and then sales, and then customer success, and then, the product, and yada, yada. All of those groups will start optimizing for themselves. And then that is what brings complexity into it as well. And for me, simplicity is an absolute discipline. And so if you want to maintain a simple product experience for your customer, you must have that rigorous discipline to simplify inside the organization as well. So
I believe once the business is growing, the founders tend to add complexity by hiring too fast at the early stage and not looking after the culture and the harmony between the entire business. So one of the tools, your tool, the Simplicity Scan, is a great tool to go through all areas in the business to find the harmony. It's like a check card. If you can use it for a picture, and from there you can tell, well, seems to be odd. It's not working with the rest of the organization. And it's a pretty critical, and it's a common mistake when businesses, once they find product market fit, they got money maybe from sales or investor, they don't pay attention to the harmony of the organization. And these kind of problems, it's pretty hard to undo. So if you build it the wrong organization in a year, you may need 3 to 5 years to recover from this. It's not something easy to be undone. So if you're a founder and you have a product market fit there and you got money and you're growing your business, the headcounts are growing on a monthly basis, then you need to have a sanity check by using the Simplicity Scan. Definitely, it helped us. Last time we used it, we went to a trip by the seaside, we rented a boat, and we had fun time with the employees of Dstny Engage, and Chris Parker and his team joined us. We used that framework, and it helped us to see where the problems are. But definitely, it took us a while to recover from this using the tool. So it's pretty important to look at this at early stage before we hit of the acceleration pedal of the hype.
Yeah, thanks for that. Let me explain the simple business design, or what's also known as the Simplicity Scan. Is it's a canvas or framework with 15 questions, and we tried to write it in, call it grandparent or parent language. So like you said, if your mom can understand it, and we purposely avoided, say, MBA or corporate type language, because sometimes corporate people use it, and if you ask the question in a slightly different way, sometimes you get different answers, which is good. So try to engage a different part of the brain than their normal. What is your mission? Okay, well, they've memorized it, but they don't feel it. They're just repeating the words. And what I love doing with teams, like with Dstny Engage, is going through the process of document, discuss, decide. And so and there's different formats of it, but basically have the people write down their answers to these basic questions individually, and the act of actually writing it down, and then it brings it out of the mind, because that forces some decisioning and clarity already. And then you can compare and contrast, say, okay, well, hey, here's a simple one. You're like who's your customer and what value do they get from your business? every leadership team or every group of people inevitably will have a slightly different answer to that. So if you have 10 people in the room, the differences will be slightly different. And in those differences is the magic. Meaning, okay, why did Ahmed, say it that way, and then say maybe Mohammed, said it that way? Why do you look at the customer slightly different? And is that something that we can learn from? And then have that process of deciding. So say, okay, well, let's converge now, and we should review it in 6 months. This is our definition of customer. At just a very, high level, because of course there's more work that, marketing and product will do about really defining that persona and stuff. That's the next step. But just having a simple statement, and it's just so fun, and it can be bonding and binding and energetic. So, and if people want to learn more about that, of course, you can go to the show notes. That's at ebullient.com. You can download the simple business design framework. And if you want facilitation, of course, you can just give me a shout, and I'd love to work and run a workshop for you. Investors over users. And this is one where, so I think this is 0.5 now. So we did scaling over simplicity. Now investors over users. You made a fascinating comment a bit ago before we were recording that founders can oftentimes design the company and the product and their messaging for the investor instead of, well, the customer or user. And how do you see that? Like, what are some examples in that, and how do you see that as a trap?
Well, the thing is, before COVID, VC money and early investors was working, but now it's not. So now you need, as a founder, you need to think like you are bootstrapping forever and have a healthy gross margin. Should have a healthy unit of economics. And if you're trying to groom your investor on the hope, for the investor on the hope you are getting investments, it's pretty hard to be sustainable. Because if your milestone as an organization is dependent on getting an investor to survive, and this is the wrong way of doing SaaS business. The investor will join you, so you'll be able to do the same thing you do, but on a scale. So designing the organization to look good to investors, incubators, and so on and so forth. This is like a death wish. So looking at the finance and having an understanding and like even a simulation about the financial model of the product you're trying to build is pretty important to build a healthy business.
Why is it a death wish? Just because the capital in the market is so hard to get in these days, or?
It's because if you are dependent on VC money, there is no plan B. So the plan B should be the plan A, which is surviving with using what you got today, and focus. Keep it simple and focus. So focusing on segmenting the market, not all of the markets, using one channel, hitting hard till you unlock that channel for that segment, getting paid, having a healthy gross margins is the key. And investment is the cherry on the top, not the vice versa.
Yeah, I guess the industry, the market around the world has changed. People were chasing investors, and then at least for now, that time is gone. I mean, you got to focus on those on the customer, get that basic revenue, and then once you've hit that fit, once you validated that, and then maybe an investor could come in and help you scale it. But
absolutely, they will be more interested.
Yeah. Or choose not to, or just choose, because if you can bootstrap it and scale it up on your own, why not? Because of course, bringing investors in brings in a lot of other dimensions and complications and personalities and things. So, last one on your list, and then I have one that I'm going to add. um, and this is market over channel, and this is where you were sharing that um, there's product market fit or market product fit. Maybe describe what that means, and then also what does channel fit mean? So can you unpack that? Like why is it a problem for people to overlook channel fit?
Yes, absolutely. So this is, we have been talking about it previously when we mentioned Denmark. So imagine a crate. So you got 3 boxes, buys 3 boxes, it's 9 boxes. On the x-axis outside that box is the inbound channels, outbound, and partner channels. This is for simplicity. And on the other axis, you got small and medium businesses, less than 50, for example, and mid-market and enterprises. So you gotta pick and test out which of these channels will work with each of these segments. And to be able to answer this, you need to look at how much ARR can I get from each segment using specific channel. Like for example, if I'm gonna do inbound with SMB, so how much ARR can I generate? How much logo churn would that segment using that channel would happen? And the payback period. Like if you are charging, your SaaS product is charging $100 and the cost of acquisition is $200. That means you got to retain the customer for 2 months to bring back the cost of acquisition. So the payback period is one of the factors. So after testing out and experimenting each channel with each kind of segment and answering this question, you will find that, wow, it doesn't make any sense to invest that amount of money of outbound, for example, on SMBs. It should be limited only to inbound and channel, partner channel, as well as maybe that the outbound is working well for the mid-market, but the inbound is not working for the enterprise. So finding the sweet spot of this matrix is pretty important to focus your effort, because at the early stage you don't have enough money, you don't have enough time, the runway is short. So experimenting these very rapidly is the key to find which segment you should keep focusing while you're improving the product for, while hiring the team to scale on this sales motion. So everything is an experiment at the early stage, even finding the right spot of customer acquisition.
I
And
think
this is how I believe in it.
yeah, no, it makes sense. And I've seen you use it in practice. And I think I've also seen you use it in practice. Because didn't you map competitors against that at one point as well to see like how are the competitors going to market? And then so you could either learn from that or differentiate from that? Like how would you add a competitor perspective into that?
Yeah, well, it's pretty hard because the competitor might be 5 years ahead of you. So maybe they are using a mix of these. You need to look back in the history. Like if you manage to find information when they launched, the day they launched, the year they launched, what kind of value proposition they were saying, what kind of market they were after. Because definitely these all of these dynamics changing over time. So picking up the competitor and analyzing them is not helpful that much on deciding the sweet spots, unless there is a competitor at their early stage doing that kind of work and they have picked one channel and they are like hammering on it. And maybe the vice versa. Maybe like if all the market is focused on the inbound, maybe there is like a blue ocean of getting starting a partner program where you can dominate most of this market through partners, because nobody is playing this game. Maybe nobody is playing this game because it's not working. You need to find out.
Yeah, maybe they're not playing that because it's a bad idea. And
Yeah.
and let me add mine. So I think we've been through 7 of these so far, I think. So idea over problem, code over customer, revenue over validation, scaling over simplicity, investors over users, and number 6 was market over channel. And number 7 is what I would add, which is love over lazy. And this is something that you inspire me about is I think people could it could be lazy simply just to focus on coding instead of actually talking to the customer. Like it takes some bravery. It takes some getting out of the comfort zone and actually caring about the customer. And it could be lazy just to rush into revenue instead of actually validating and actually doing the work. And one thing that I was reflecting on this is there needs to be a I would call it love, but you could call it maybe a passion, an interest, that I certainly see, in the work with you, that there's a deep care in getting this right. And it's a deep care in going through a deliberate process, to maintain simplicity as well. So I'm curious for you, do you see sometimes people maybe falling into the trap of just doing the lazy transactional work over the loving, passionate, caring, relational work? Is this a pattern that you could apply to some of these lessons?
Yes, it's nothing wrong of doing that transactional work, by the way, because it's all about the stage where you are. If you're in the early stage, you need people who want to join you to fulfill a mission, not to work from 9 to 5. And nothing wrong with working 9 to 5, but you need these people to do like transactional work after you grow. So it's all about the stage you're in. You need to pick the right people to work with. I guess there's no like extreme right or wrong about this.
Well, I'm curious. Are you implying with a larger organization, there's maybe less mission-oriented people? Because larger organizations are spending a lot of money to try to be purpose-based and try to attract people and get them engaged, and it's harder and harder and harder when you get bigger and bigger.
That's a bit harder. Like seeing the frustration of the eyes of the customer when they're using your products, it's worth millions. Like, but the thing is, as the business grows, a number of people are huge. It's a bit harder to make sure that you are keeping the link between the customers and the employees. And I guess this is the mission of many people in the companies, that to bring the voice of the customer inside the organization. So one of the incidents, like I had a meeting with a customer, and I asked them, you know what? One of these meetings, I asked them, ignore me. I will record your screen. Keep working. Keep doing what you're doing. I will record you for an hour. And then I shared this record with my UX team. It was insane, the value they got and the feeling, because now they are connected. They were like, wow, I feel sorry for that person. We did really bad job in this area. Now they are very connected. So this is pretty important when the organization grows. They keep relationship with the customers, and definitely not everybody will be able to do so inside that organization. So there are other people that their mission is to bring the voice of the customer within that organization and keep that voice live.
The power of the actual voice of the actual user or customer cannot be underestimated, I think. So because if it's translated into a report or a summary, and then it's been passed via 2 or 3 different departments and sanitized, and and internalized. Just to be able to have that raw experience, even if it is a recording, to just to, you know, if you hear a user saying, I love it when I can do this, and this really frustrates me, you know, I think that is just so energizing for the humans that are actually building this product. So yeah, share the love that way. So nice. Well, what a list. Meaning, and I'm excited to see more on your blog. I mean,
Do we
Q4.
still got time for more item on the list?
Go. Yeah, I think we're kind of over time, but I'm just so excited to learn from you. So throw another one on there.
This one comes from Chris Parker.
Oh,
It's all about stepping into the market step by step, by focusing on vertical based use cases. Like instead of building everything, you need to bring one solution for one industry and then offer the next uh, problem solved solution and go on until you expand in the market. So, for example, if you are building a booking system, don't go out and say, well, I have the best booking system in the world. It doesn't work like this. You need to like maybe find out the problem with the salon industry, the beauty industry for maybe, and then solve the problem, enhance the solution, and then step into the next maybe clinics, maybe booking for the dentist, and so on and so forth. So trying to sell to everyone is not going to work. And this is the lesson I learned. One of the key lessons that I guess I believe it's one of life-changing lessons. You will never feel the pain unless you experience it. So thank you, Chris, for this.
yeah. Well, sometimes you just have to experience the pain, but it's and that lesson came to me from my own failure of trying to be too generic and serve everyone, therefore no one, with when we had a pretty good knowledge at data analytics company. Maybe a lot of things. Maybe we were too early in the market. We weren't able to really identify the ideal customer, because the buying customers on analytics, this is like 8-9 years ago, the awareness and sophistication of the buying executives was low, data quality was low, so we had everything working against us. But and this comes from that book, Crossing the Chasm, as well, inspired by that. Meaning you're going to get some early adopters that are just really enthusiastic, and then that could also maybe trick you, because if you have a few innovative thinkers that go, oh, you're great, you're awesome, this is perfect, this is amazing, then you can start believing that. But until you actually get a bit more of the say mainstream customers that are a bit more critical, you know, they're going to demand some references. They're going to demand, you know, marketing material and messaging that speaks to them, you know, because if they're a clinic, then a hair salon booking message, they're just completely different people solving completely different problems. It's just not going to work. And what I really wish for people is find that one problem. So this is your point number one, your idea over problem. Instead of world's best booking system, no, what is the problem, you know, for that customer? Validate it, keep it simple, focus on the users, understand that I just did that reading this list, your list, you know, nail the channel to get to them, do it with love. And there you go. And I would have to say, Ahmed, we've learned that together in this last year. And I'm just grateful that you're on the team and we're able to have these kind of conversations. So what would you call that last one? If it's is it use case over serve everyone? Yeah, something like that. So let's add that to the list. Yeah. Use case over everyone on the list. Love it. So sadly, we need to wrap up. It is Friday, so in Egypt that is your weekend. So I am also appreciative that you're taking your weekend morning for this, your time to think about it up front and share it. People can read and follow at Q4, and that's the letter Q number 4.ae. There's an Arabic version and English version, but right now it goes straight to the English version. So you can check that out. Links in the show notes. And also you can get in touch with Ahmed Mohsen at LinkedIn, Mohsen, Mohsen. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll put all this in the show notes as well. And I love this format of really going through a point by point, because I was just, super eager to learn from you and pull this out and share this with the audience. So thanks so much, Ahmed.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure to meet you today.
Thank you for listening. Visit ebullient.com to download the Simple Business Design Framework. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player.